off a daily fantasy. His number too high, then I'm probably fading him. He been on the road, he gon' eat up my salary. I hit a buy, he gon' lie before lock. Play back to back, then I probably won't pick on the DFS bachelor, good as it gets. Build a few liners and hit me a leg. He had a good game, but it might be a trick. Log in the Slack so I know who to pick. Sharing our liners, we all gon' get rich. New to this game, you should come to the pad. You might want some cash and get a good laugh. DFS sports, we gon' run up a bag. He heard every game and it's making me mad. You buying your lineups, I think you a cheater. DFS bachelor, he the new leader. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Bachelor Pad. I, of course, am the DFS Bachelor, and we're going to talk about League of Legends. So when we talk League of Legends, we have our League of Legends Supermind, Mr. Mike at League of Items on Twitter. We've also got links to his YouTube page where he goes in-depth all throughout the day, live streams, the games, etc., all that stuff. Check that out in the video description below. How you doing this morning, brother?
Doing pretty well. I had a lot of Hanwha life last night, so that was unfortunate. But I also had one sandbox lineup, and that won me a ticket into a pretty big contest in October. So I'm pretty happy in general.
Good.
But, just going to try to take that momentum and put together another good roster tonight for another qualifier to see if I can get another one.
Yeah. I did not have a great night because I had a ton of Dragon X, and they can just fuck right off. Yeah. But that's League of Legends, especially this split. It seems like there's a lot less predictability with this split for me. There's a lot of underdogs who have been winning teams you thought were good or who thought you were terrible or it's just not the same. I'm not exactly sure what's so different about this split, but there's definitely been a lot more variance just for me when I'm making my lineups than I saw in the last split. First things first, before we get into anything, thank you again for all your support. We really do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe down below if you're new to the channel. We appreciate that. Tons of content coming up the next few weeks. NBA, MLB, the NFL will be kicking off. You'll find us over at sportsbookreview.com. Mike's channel's down there, so check all that out. Like it, comment. Really appreciate that. Hit the bell icon so you know when videos come up. I get asked all the time, oh, I didn't know a video was up. When did it come up? Well, click the bell icon. You'll never miss it. That simple. So we appreciate all of that. Also, don't forget to check out Overlay DFS. I forgot to mention them yesterday. Check them out if you're going to play PGA. When the NBA comes back, it's a lot of fun. It's a different type of DFS. You can find them in the Apple iTunes Store. The Android app is available at their website, overlaydfs.com, and you can hit them up on Twitter in their DMs and ask them about their first deposit bonus. They'll match you up to 50%, up to, I believe, $1,000 is the right number there. And a big cheers to you all. Thank you so much. Hope you had a good night last night. So we have 4 games, 2 LPL, 2 LCK. As usual, it's the same song and dance. Luckily, the first game on the slate is an LCK game. So we will know the starters there, and T1's involved. So we basically will know, besides the Cuz Elam thing that they always do. But those lineups we won't know those until very shortly before lock, if at all. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at DFS Bachelor, at League of Items. The LPL starting lineups, if they're not out already, they will be up shortly, and they will be on our Twitter pages. Anything else you want to touch on before we get to the games?
Nope.
All right, let's jump.
We're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go. Good job on getting in that. Shitbox. Got you somewhere.
Yeah.
Very nice. I wish I'd have done some hedging. I 99.9% of the time hedge and play double underdogs, etc.
Yeah.
I wish for some reason I just didn't do that last night, and it cost me. That's what happens. Yeah. That's why I always say, if you're playing multiple lineups, don't be a dummy nut on our tummy, but don't be a dummy. Make sure you hedge.
You got to come up with a good one for hedging.
For a hedging, yeah, I'll come up with something, but I do I was just telling, my son's 15, and I'm I'm telling him, listen, if something does happen, don't be a dummy, nut on our tummy. That's an important rule.
Save everybody a lot of money.
Yep. A lot of grief, and that's probably all we can say there, because I almost got in trouble for the last time I made a joke on this subject. I think I was okay. Okay, so first game, T1 and SP. Of course, they were APK prints last year. T1 is a massive favorite. They're minus 1,800 on Bovada. That's one of the biggest spreads I've ever seen, actually. I'm trying to think of the last time.
Yeah, pretty huge.
I saw something like that.
I think we've gotten close, but not. I don't think 1800. DRX was 1250.
Yeah.
At one point this season.
Yeah.
And then Invictus Gaming was minus 1700 at one point. Oh, JDG was minus 2500.
Oh, okay.
Against Dominus. But
Okay.
still, I mean, that's still insane. Like 1400 is insane. The difference between 2500 and like 1800 is like 2 or 3 percentage points on implied win rate. So it's still like out of control.
Yeah, for me, I think if I would like, unless you just want to parlay it, but I like you get a minus 275 at least for the minus 1.5. I might go there. Is there any reason to think SP has a shot in this game besides the fact that it's League of Legends and these underdogs can sometimes win?
Yeah, so I would say the way that Solhewan Prince gets a game is if T1 starts messing around with substitutes and stuff like that. And I think they definitely could, because T1 historically has looked to get their substitute stage time. So they're very good at picking talent, so it might not even be a big problem for them, like because they build up players pretty well. But going lane by lane, Kana against Ixu, Kana has a huge advantage. Cuz and Elim are both better than Flawless. Faker is better than Mickey and Keen. So their Solhewan Prince has a sub issue in mid lane regardless.
Right.
Even though I do like Mickey a decent amount. And then I think Trigger and Hybrid have both played, so you'll have to check for that one as well. So this is the kind of night where being awake right around lock is going to be important, because we'll get the lineup at some point. In the bot lane we have Everett and Kuri. Kuri has played once, and then Mia and Secret, I think they've both played this season as well. So I think that T1 is obviously a gigantic favorite, and they're not going to be as highly owned as you would think, because they're pretty expensive, and they have that perception of not being a high-scoring team.
Right.
And then we also have like 5 interesting teams in the next 3 matches for fantasy scoring purposes, like that have looked like they score more points this season, or 4 of them really. So right. I guess a Freak of Freaks is right there too.
Yeah, Freak of Freaks is right there. I think that's an interesting game when we get to that.
There are 2 great matches tonight, and then there are 6 good teams playing.
Right.
VG Gaming is borderline, but not a good team yet, but they're trending in the right direction.
Right.
So I would say with T1, I am a little bit afraid of a sub risk, because this is a bottom team, bottom 5 team in the LCK, really a bottom 4 team.
Right.
So I'm probably not rostering Solhewan Prince tonight. I just don't think it's worth it. The good thing about T1's matchup against Solhewan Prince is if they go 2-0, there is a chance that they're the highest scoring team on the night, because SP gives up a lot of points in general.
Right.
Specifically, like somebody like Faker. If Mickey is going to play these volatile champions, Faker could just be like, screw it, I'm better than this guy. I can just play whatever I want, try to have a huge pop-off game and have some fun. I think they're more focused on the victory, obviously, but I could see in like game 2 some crazy stuff going on.
Sure.
So I don't think I'm playing Solhewan Prince tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I'm gonna definitely, of course, have some T1. Again, it does behoove you to be up. It's 1 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Eastern. If you can stomach it and be up, half hour, 15 minutes before that locks and see the rosters, it's gonna benefit you, because it wouldn't shock me if one of these teams has a different lineup than maybe their last matchup, etc. So it's something to really keep an eye on, and definitely a sub risk, like you said.
Yeah. The one thing I would say for T1 is their top laner is the most expensive. Jungle is the 3rd most expensive, because Draftkings understands there's a sub risk. The players understand there's a sub risk, and the ownership reflects that in general. So if you stay up until around 4 o'clock in the morning, right around lock, getting that advantage will probably get you onto a player who is under-owned compared to what they should be. I've been doing some ownership projections on my channel where I'm trying to like use like coefficients to kind of get an implied ownership based off of win rate. So like when you have a minus 1,500 favorite or 1,800, whatever it is, that number is going to be insane, because like you think that if T1 wins, you want to have at least some exposure to them, and that's just completely skewed by this. So I think the reaction is going to be that T1 goes severely under-owned, which makes them an interesting play tonight. But that's all I got for this game. We can go to the second game in Korea or to China, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. I think trying to be over the field on T1 does give you a little bit of leverage tonight. I agree.
I think so. I think probably, yeah.
Yeah. Our next game, Vici Gaming and FPX. Obviously, FPX is a fairly decent favorite as well. I'm trying to find that, but they always make it such a pain in the ass to scroll
Yeah,
through.
I've got it at -330 for FPX and +250 for Vici Gaming.
Okay. And, obviously FPX, one of the best teams in the world. Vici Gaming, one of those sort of lower middle, maybe higher middle type teams. And if I'm playing FPX, they're one of the rare teams where you want to target their mid laner, kind of like Top Esports too, with Knight.
Yeah.
Doin B's the best, even though Knight's not the best player on Top Esports. I think that's Jackie Love, of course. But Doin B is the best player on FPX, and the price reflects it. He's very expensive. I probably will have some slight exposure to Vici Gaming. I can see a scenario where they can somehow pull out a 2-1, but FPX will be the team I would have the most exposure to in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, so this game kind of scares me from a Draftkings perspective because FPX, when they're playing against a team that like isn't going to force kills, it could get pretty low scoring. So like if you look at a match like FPX against JDG or FPX against V5, I'm not saying that Vici Gaming is as good as those teams, but they play that similar kind of style where they're not going to just throw themselves at you when they're losing most of the time.
Right.
So that might happen tonight. And I think FPX does have a chance of going 2-0, so I will probably have exposure to them. In terms of Vici Gaming winning, that's more interesting, and that's more determined by like champion select. I could see Vici Gaming winning one game, certainly. Like,
right.
I do like Vici Gaming ever since they made the change in the mid lane. But in the last match, they started messing around with their jungle, which scares the shit out of me because it just like I don't really know how to explain it. So in basketball, I think it would be very similar. In football, it'd be similar to switching out the quarterback, how it just throws a huge wrench into everything. Like you don't know what's going to happen the next week with a new quarterback under center, or if you swap out a point guard in the NBA, it's just like everything becomes uncertain. So it's tough to project what the game flow is going to be like. From what I know about Aches, he's more of a tank player, and he's not like going to try to hard carry the game. So that might push Vici Gaming towards a team fighting composition with multiple tanks. FPX will be able to easily dismantle that.
Right.
So I would be kind of afraid of that for DraftKings purposes. The good thing about that is Vici Gaming might convince themselves that they can fight FPX around late game Dragons, late game Baron, and like keep it close. So instead of it being 12-6 or something like that, maybe because of one or two late game team fights that goes close, you can get up to like 18 to 20 kills for FPX. But I wouldn't really expect like the mid 20s or something like that in any of the individual matches. And that's really where the huge upside comes in.
Right. Right. And I will say, so we're just going over these first two games, really the two biggest favorites on the slate, FPX and T1. If you're going to play those two, you're going to have to play a jungler or a top or a support in the captain spot. So a guy like Khan for FPX, or a one of the junglers you talked about for T1, even though you might be getting some value there. I think that's a way to go. Those would be like, so if whoever starts at the jungler for T1 and Khan would be kind of my two favorite captains if you're doing a 3-4-4-3 stack with T1 or FPX.
Yeah, so if you're rostering two favorites, you're definitely going to have to get different because DraftKings isn't going to let you roster those two teams together.
Right.
If you want to get a closer look at that kind of roster construction stuff, I do a stream basically almost every night around 10 o'clock, between 10 to 11, depending on what else is going on. And I have a sheet where I kind of go through the different possible combinations, and it shows like which teams fit together, which teams don't fit together. And it's just a part of the process that I do every night.
Right. And I think it's an important process. It's really important. Roster construction is important. I see a lot of people, they keep putting supports in the captain spot. And I'm like, why would you put a support when you can put a top or a jungler? It just doesn't make it. It's very rare. A guy like Missing, maybe when you have World Elite, is someone I'd sort of consider.
Yeah. So but, I know for you're very LPL LCK focused on DraftKings. When you're in a best of 3, it's much less likely for a support to be the winning captain because it's 3 games. So the 3-game sample size kind of makes everything come closer to the average.
Right.
In best of 1s, there are some teams that have supports like in Europe and North America where you can justify playing the support as a captain. One of my patrons won like between like 20 to 30 grand like last weekend off of that kind of roster construction. And like I agree with you, in general I don't want to play support as my captain, but in best of 1s, if you're on a a very good team and it helps you get another good team in there, then it kind of makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Best of ones.
Yeah.
I hate the best of ones on DraftKings. I
best
cannot stand those. I just cannot stand them.
That might be the other reason why it feels like there's more upsets, because like last split, I think just in general, most people who were getting into League of Legends for the first times were very focused on the best of threes in LPL and LCK. So you were seeing even like 2-1s. 2-1s felt bad a lot of the time for the people who were on those games. So that kind of felt like an upset. But in reality, well, not in reality, historically, we do see these kinds of upsets pretty often. Like when you look at the end of season standings and you look at the records, there is a surprising number of losses for some of these top teams because they can throw a clunker out there every once in a while. And that's one of the reasons why I think on the stream last night I was talking about KT. The last time KT played, I said if KT was going to make a push for playoffs, that was the kind of matchup that they would need to win. They didn't do it last time, but they came out yesterday and did it. So it does show that they're still going to be in contention for playoffs and stuff like that. But I think that's enough. Actually, so let me just quickly go through the positions. I do think Khan is a good player. Cube, I'm not so interested in. I think that's a tough matchup, and he'll probably be on tank duty, especially if Aix is playing. They'll do like double tanks or something like that, which makes Aphelios an extremely important pick. So if Vici Gaming is going to play those tanks, they need to make sure they're not leaving up Aphelios. In the mid lane, we have Duanbe against Zika. I think Zika's been doing really well since he took over the starting role. In their last match against Rogue Warriors, he had 100 points. So that's like about 150 as a captain. iBoy still leaving a lot to be desired, but in the last match, he scored 106 points. And the one before that, he scored 125. So I don't think that iBoy is playing particularly well. I just think he's being put into spots to succeed because like we're getting a lead in the mid game through the jungle and mid laner. And then we're creating advantageous team fights for iBoy, and then he can kind of sweep up. But he has not looked as good as he's supposed to. So I think that you're going to need some luck to get Vici Gaming to hit tonight. But because it's not only do they have to win, but they have to make FPX die a lot, which is not even a requirement to win the match. So it's pretty tough. I think we can go next. I'm gonna get some water real quick.
Yep, get some water. Get some water. We'll move on to the next game. LGD and JDG Gaming.
Brita,
one thing I will. Oh, Brita, not a sponsor. I will touch on the jungler for FPX Tion. I do think if you're gonna do double favorites, I think he has some captain upside as well. He can put together some high point totals. So LGD JDG Gaming. This game is pretty close. I actually like the pricing quite a bit it's pretty rare that you get JDG at these prices against an opponent as a favorite. I mean, their most expensive player in the captain spot, their 80 carry Loken at 11.4. Then you've got Kramer right below that for LGD at 11.1. LGD is obviously a live underdog here. They've been playing well this split as well. I know JDG is your favorite team, so that's good. And the JDG fans are your favorites as well. So
I've reversed because people are finally backing off of JDG, but like I think that the JDG regression was expected. I've been talking about it for months.
Sure.
Good job, Pikel. Thank you.
Sure.
But it's going to go too far. Like, because that's just how the public works. It's going to be like, oh, now JDG's horrible. They got lucky last split. And like all these crazy things. So they're still a very talented team.
And they've been pretty good. They haven't been horrible.
Yeah, exactly. They've been winning. They've been winning for the most part.
Yeah.
But people's perception of it has fallen a lot. So I don't know if anybody watching this video saw my ESPN esports reaction video where I basically tear ESPN to shreds for their horrible rankings. But in there, they say something about JDG looking bad. I'm like, oh yeah, they look horrible. They won their last four matches 2-0 or something like that. Yeah. So it's just crazy what people will say about JDG. I think that I'm high on them in terms of like relative to where they are placed in the world, but in China it is looking like they are a notch below JDG. They're a notch below FPX, Top Esports, and maybe even Invictus Gaming, which isn't that surprising. You really have 4 very good teams in China right now, and then you have some competitors, and I think LGD is one of those competitors. Right. So I like LGD as a live underdog. LGD has had some very good victories in the past. They beat someone. Who did they just beat? Let me find that real quick.
Was it LGD, was it Invictus Gaming that they beat? I want to say it was Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, Yeah, so they've beaten Invictus Gaming and they beat V5.
Yeah.
So
isn't that
those are
weird
two
that
good wins.
now
It is.
V5
It's
is a
weird.
good
It is
win?
weird.
I can't handle that still, but
Yeah. The one thing I'd say about V5 is it would be one thing if they were still like a very high kill score team and LGD was winning. The fact that they are more of a macro team right now, where it's like lower kill totals
right.
and more like organized team fighting and building incremental leads and like actually snowballing, that is much more impressive for V5 than like the alternative where they're just winning these high kill score games.
Right.
So I think that V5, even if they don't end up being a great team for the rest of the split, or even if they don't make the playoffs, I think the fact that they've kind of gotten the macro under control is extremely important for their long-term success. Maybe not making it to Worlds or being a World Championship contender or something like that, but just to be competitive and like stay middle of the table and not fall back to the bottom of the table.
Right. Yeah. No. So, yeah. It's impressive. I mean, they won, like we said, they won one game out of all of their matches last split, and I mean, it's a drastic turnaround. There's just no doubt about that.
So JDG against LGD in the top lane. Zoom is definitely better than Longshi. We're not guaranteed that Longshi is going to play all 3 games, but Zoom is better regardless.
Right.
Zoom wants to play things like Ornn, Volibear, and I think he plays Summer Nectin, maybe some Wukong, but like for the most part, he wants to be on that kind of tank champion. Longshi is really not the kind of player that can take advantage of that. I think he has tried to play some carry games, but in one of the recent matchups, I kind of targeted the player going against Longshi, and I'm pretty sure it worked. So, and then in the jungle, we have Kanavi and Peanut, both very good junglers.
Yeah.
Kanavi is better, but they're both the best player on their team.
Mm-hmm.
So this is similar to what happened last split when Rogue Warriors played against JDG, and I was a high on Haro, because I know when 2 carry junglers go against one another, it can kind of distort the scoring potential for both teams. Because when a carry jungler falls behind, it's like they kind of can't force the issue. It is very similar to like basketball and football again, where if you have a quarterback that's a gunslinger and he throws 1 or 2 picks, some of them will back off a little bit unless they're really like top tier talent and like believe in themselves. And then you have like in the NBA like a shooter. If a shooter's having a cold night, some of them just keep chucking, some of them back off. In League of Legends, they're more likely to back off than keep shooting because you'll look like a psychopath if you keep dying in League of Legends. Right. In the mid lane,
and if I remember that slate right, that was the one. It was kind of a weird slate, and you had to have both those junglers. I think didn't Haro have like 95 points in a loss or something? It was something crazy that.
Yeah, it was at least the number 83 sticking out in my mind for some reason. But I think that's still amazing for a losing player.
It was an amazing amount of points, and that's what set him apart. And I think the person who had that won it outright, if I remember correctly.
That wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah.
So in the mid lane, we have Yagao and Xie. I think this is a very even matchup. Xie is the kind of player who can counter pick Yagao. Yagao has a pretty telegraphed champion pool. He wants to play LeBlanc. He wants to play Syndra. And I think that LGD will be prepared for that. I'm not a huge believer in Yagao. I think he is a beneficiary of being on a good team more than he is like an extremely talented player.
Agreed.
So I think that Xie and Peanut can create some kind of advantages in the mid lane, while JDG might be more top focused. And then in the bot lane, we have Loken and Lumao against Kramer and Mark. They're very different stylistically. I'm not a huge fan of Loken either. I know some people out there think that Loken is like very good or one of the best AD carries around, but I don't think there's any way to really justify that looking at like the mechanics, the ability to be very solid in lane consistently against good competition. Like if you're going out there and you're beating the shit out of a bad team, like I don't care. That is not impressive to anybody.
Right.
Like I was talking about it on my stream the other day. It's like if the Yankees played against Rutgers baseball team and they scored 25 runs, it's not going to be like, oh my God, the Yankees are world beaters. Watch out. They're going to win the World Series. Look at how many home runs they hit. It's like no one cares. It's irrelevant.
Right.
So I do prefer the JDG side in this matchup because Loken is a better carry player than Kramer, but that's not saying much. Kramer is more of like a supportive bot laner where he wants to go at least even and be ready for the team fights later on. Right. So Kramer has had some good performances. I'm not saying that he can't have a good performance. I'm just saying when I think Kramer is at his best is when he's on something like Senna or Ashe or something like that.
Gotcha.
Just not one of these like hard carry champions. But
Gotcha.
I think it's a good matchup. I think LGD is live. And
Yeah.
that's basically.
Yeah, I agree. I'll have exposure to both sides.
Yeah.
Might be something where I do two favorites, do like I'll take T1 or FPX and play them and stack them with both sides. Something to that effect, and make it work. And our last game, the final Korean game, Afrika Freaks, Damwon Gaming. I think this is probably the maybe it might be the closest matchup of the night. LGD JDG is fairly close, but
yeah,
these are two pretty good teams. Damwon Gaming is the slight favorite. I love the pricing for Damwon Gaming because when Damwon Gaming goes off, they can score. They have a chance if they for some reason 2-0 with Freaka Freaks, they could be the highest scoring team of the night. Yeah, and they're definitely the lowest price favorite. I really like, in terms of DraftKings, Damwon Gaming might be my favorite tonight.
Yeah, I love Damwon Gaming in general. Against the Freaka Freaks, it's an interesting matchup because going into the season, they were both kind of thought of as like in the 4, 5, 6 range in Korea. I think for most people, Damwon Gaming is very talented, and I feel like they've been playing the patch almost perfectly.
Right.
Let me check what a Freaka Freaks did in their last match. I feel like they lost, or at least didn't have a great performance. Okay, no, their last match they beat KT Roaster 2-0. Freaka Freaks and Damwon Gaming have both been
pretty good.
Yeah, good this season, consistent as well.
Mm-hmm.
Freaka Freaks lost to DRX, which is expected. They lost to T1, which is expected. Damwon Gaming lost to Genji, but then beat everybody else. So just from like a transitive properties perspective, you would kind of say Damwon Gaming has the ability to beat T1. Freaka Freaks like probably doesn't. It might be a matchup kind of thing. So let's do lane by lane. Yeah. Nogri against Keen. Those are both good carry top laners. There's not a huge advantage one way or the other. Normally, Damwon Gaming will have an advantage in the top lane, but I don't think they really have a gigantic one tonight. In the jungle, we have Canyon against Spirit. I'm not a huge fan of either of these junglers. I think that Canyon is better than Spirit, though.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that Spirit was like a Nidalee player when he played for Fnatic for a little while, and I was right about that. But for some reason, that's not like his go-to champion right now. So I don't know if he's less confident in that pick or something, but I think that's probably a mistake. He's been playing. He did play it once against Dynamics, once against T1. They won both of those games. So I'm not seeing a ton of bans against them with it either. But maybe it's just because it's a more difficult style to play. They're shying away from it. In the last 8 matches, 7 matches, they played 5 games of Trundle and 2 games of Volibear in the jungle. So again, that makes Aphelios really important for the enemy team because it's kind of counterintuitive. But when I talk about AD carries that are pocket passers, you want to be able to get onto them and kind of disrupt them. I think teams think that Volibear and Trundle can kind of accomplish that.
That sounds like sleep creeping, by the way, which I call cuddle with the struggle. But never mind.
Wow. It's like teams just try to jam in tanks, and it's like if you don't have the disruption along with those tanks, it's not necessarily going to work. So right. Trundle Pillar is good. I think that if they are planning on playing against Aphelios, they will try to get Trundle because it'll like literally slow down Aphelios. It'll make it more difficult for him to move around the pocket. But yeah, Volibear, it is still questionable. I'm not sure why teams love it so much. It is interesting, but it's better, I think, in like solo queue and the pickup game than in competitive.
Right.
In the mid lane, we have Showmaker against Fly. Showmaker is making a case to be like a top 5 mid laner in the world right now.
Yeah.
Ever since he did that challenge where he played every single champion once to get to Challenger or whatever, that just blew my mind. That is like ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
So it shows like he has an extremely in-depth knowledge of like every single champion, which is just wild. Yeah. And then in the bot lane, we have Ghost and Beryl against Mystic and Ben. I think that Damwon Gaming is very intelligent with how they draft because they are focusing a lot on Senna and they're playing a lot of intelligent compositions. Senna does pretty okay into Aphelios because it allows you to play a tank that can continuously jump onto Aphelios with some disruption. So I think for that reason, Damwon Gaming is underpriced and will hopefully go under-owned, but yeah. I think most players will want to get some exposure to Damwon Gaming. If I had to rank the 4 teams, I think that JDG or FPX will be the highest owned team on the slate. Then the other one of that will be the second highest team on the slate. I could see JDG getting like really highly owned because LGD is thought of as a team that gives up a lot of kills.
Right.
And then, yeah, I think Damn One Gaming. I think Damn One Gaming will be more popular than T1 just because T1 isn't thought of as like a huge fantasy point team. So,
but maybe being that late game and not, still not understand, even though we pretty much know who's going to play for Damn One Gaming.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is that I think even though most of the time we aren't certain about the 7 o'clock match, I think this one is pretty set from a roster perspective.
Right.
So if you want to roster Beryl, if you want to roster Ghost or Showmaker, I think it's pretty safe.
Right.
I wouldn't be as afraid as somebody like Hanwha Life.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's it for the 4 games. Who's your favorite tonight? In terms of DraftKings.
With everything taken into consideration, I think that the stack that's going to give me the biggest tournament winning upside, I kind of think it's T1. I think that they might just be they might end up being under-owned. It does seem pretty expensive, but that's another reason why it's going to be a little bit lower owned. So you will have to find an underdog that you like, and I think if an underdog wins, it's really going to unlock the slate, as it normally does. So I think T1 in that matchup against Sol Hwan Prince can get the high kill upside. That is really interesting to me. I think FPX against VG Gaming is very scary because you're anticipating this gigantic score from Fun Plus Phoenix, but unless VG Gaming opts into that kind of playstyle, I don't think it's going to happen. Right. JDG against LGD, I think the perception of LGD being a team that gives up a ton of kills is not completely accurate, especially with how well they've been playing this split. And then Damn One Gaming against the Freak of Freaks, I think is going to be pretty highly owned because Damn One Gaming's been so successful. So I think T1 might actually be sneaky tonight, and whenever T1 is on the slate, I want to play them. So I'll probably end up having more T1 than the field.
I think I agree with you, and I think I might end up having a lot of all Korea stacks going a little different and fading some of the LPL games.
Yeah, that could be a very good.
Which could be different because I just love the pricing for Damn One Gaming. I hope that they're not as highly owned as you say, but it's just for me it's too cheap. When you can get a guy like Showmaker at 11-1 in the captain spot, you can make some shit work because JDG's a little underpriced as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Showmaker, everybody has been winning with Showmaker,
right?
So I feel like they have to go back to Showmaker like instantly.
Yeah.
So if you can get some Showmaker captain lineups where you get a second favorite in there and then maybe throw like 1 or 2 underdogs into that, maybe that's the kind of roster construction that ends up winning tonight.
Like a Damn One Gaming, T1 LGD, Damn One Gaming like FPX, LGD, where you get some LGD in there because LGD is certainly live,
Yeah. So I do think that's an option. Maybe something where you have like Damn One Gaming and a Freak of Freaks getting into a shootout. Maybe something like that could work out. I don't like Sol Hwan Prince that much.
No.
Yeah.
Vici Gaming, I'm becoming less and less interested in Vici Gaming as we talk about the other games.
Yeah.
I'm becoming less interested.
I think V5 beat FPX in one of the games in that match, even though they ended up losing. I think they won like 9-0.
Yeah.
So FPX, depending on how their draft goes, is able to bring it down to that kind of low scoring.
Right.
But it also depends on like how do they want to manipulate the other team. So if they look at VG Gaming and think to themselves, they want to play a low kill score game, let's force them to play a high kill score game. But that's like that's too many levels deep without knowing what the champions are going to be and stuff like that.
Sure. All right. I think that's everything. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, give us a like. Don't forget to check out the roster construction video that Mike does. I mean, I think that's really important. It's going to show you kind of how you can build different lineups. That's at 10 or 11 Eastern time. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. And that's the reason I got onto the lineup that won that tournament for me yesterday.
There you go. And the link to his channel will be right down there in the video description below. The link to our Twitter feeds are down there for the starting lineups for LPL. I will try to set my alarm to be up at 1 a.m. My sister and my twin nephews, who are 5, are running me absolutely ragged right now. So last night I was out cold. I didn't wake up till 7 o'clock this morning. Just crazy. Had to pour a Jameson in coffee.
Nice.
Seriously, thank you all so much. Check out Mike's channel. Check us out on Twitter. I may not be around tomorrow. I got to find out what day they want to go to the lake. The lake day is happening. I don't know what day that is.
Sure.
So there will be the one day, but I'm going to try to be around for every other day after that, business as usual. Really appreciate all your support. May the very fickle fantasy gods, who may or may not exist,
hey, if they're letting me win, they don't exist.
Oh,
I mean,
if they're letting you,
just think about that for a
maybe
second.
they just like maybe they just like the new facial hair look. Maybe they just like it.
Maybe I'm irresistible.
Love you all. Hope you're all happy, safe. Have a great day. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Goodbye, folks.
See ya.